What was the other question? Oh, I thought if I kept being bumped back, maybe it would never happen.
London clouds.
Yeah, and the Cloud Society. If you watch Monty Python and Masterpiece Theater and all those British imports, you know what a sense of humor the Brits have. Well, in the UK is the Cloud Appreciation Society. Anybody can join. Thousands of members around the world. It's partly educational. They have beautiful posters and photographs, and people send in photographs, but it's got that little edge of British craziness, which makes it very appealing. And so just look them up online. Thank you for coming. Let's talk about black.
Yay.
Black magic, witches, widows, cowboy movies. Bad guy always wears a black hat. Spiders. Cats. None of this stuff is really warm and fuzzy. Black, the Puritan fathers wore black, and mothers. And Mary, Queen of Scots, there was a lucky lady. Queen Victoria, dressed in black for decades. Black has drama. Beat poets, New Yorkers, God bless them, all wear, black has meaning. Nobody gets all excited if you're wearing a baby blue sweater, but wear a black velvet gown or a tuxedo and you got drama. That's where my black paper comes in. I'm thinking instant drama. I tend to be a little lazy, so why do I want to start with white paper to create a dramatic painting with a black background? I also feel that if I'm painting peonies, I don't need a vase, a tablecloth, a lamp, a candle, a teacup, a seashell, anything else. It's about what I'm painting. And even at that, I don't want to say my painting is about peonies or about eggs. A painting isn't, for me, about. A painting is. It's pigment on a flat surface. When you get up close, I want you to love looking at the pigment and not be saying, ooh, elves. Or, whatever it is. And I like them to glow, to call to you from across the room. I don't think I always get there, but it's where I think I want to go. I have 3 kinds of paper that I have used and have experimented with. On all these examples, you could assume that everything is Canson Touch that isn't labeled. It's a paper that has a little grit, but you're never going to bleed if you blend with your fingers. It's not like the heavily sanded papers. The second one I use is from Arches, and it's cover stock. It's like a heavy, felty kind of drawing paper, but it comes in black. One difference between the Canson Touch and the cover stock is the cover stock, if your first painting doesn't work out, it's black on the other side. That's a help. The third one, this is watercolor paper, heavy watercolor paper, 400 pound at least, with black gesso. The paper is so heavily textured that I don't really have to put any pumice in it when I'm doing that. And what I intend to do a number more of these, and I also intend not to mat it or frame it and lose these crazy edges that I think are kind of exciting and fun. They handle differently, these three papers. The cover stock will not hold lots and lots of layers. So if you need one on top of the other, and I do use sticks between layers all the time, it just won't take as many. This won't give you as clean an edge as the touch. And I like these little edges of the shells to be as crispy as I can make them, reflecting the reality of an eggshell. There's something softer about this. It just is not going to happen no matter what I do. If you haven't got this catalog in the last week, get online and ask for it. They have done a terrific job talking about sanded papers, what the characteristics of each, what colors they come in. So this is Dakota Art Pastels. I'm sure they'll send it to you if you ask for it, if you don't already have one. It's really useful. Here's some little samples of each of these three papers. And if somebody will just start around, you can kind of feel them. I also use unconventional tools. So you could stir pancake batter with this, or you could blend. These are a little more formal. They're called color shapers. You could get them up to about 3 inches wide, and they're soft rubber, firm but soft, but very similar to something like this. So these are worth trying because these are $3 and these are closer to 20 a piece. This is one that's really flexible, and it's a oil painter's, what would be called a palette knife, but it's a palette push pigments around. Little brushes. This one is an official artist brush. This one is from lip gloss. This one is from blush. Now, even if you're a boy, you could go to Target and just buy a whole selection of soft brushes made for cosmetics. And cosmetics are pigment, loose pigment, you know, not lotions and stuff, but blush and eyeshadow. What are they? It's soft pigment. So they make brushes for it. Bingo. And then these color shapers come in a lot of sizes that are more conventional. You probably can't even see this because it's like a rubber tip, same thing, color shaper, but it's so tiny it's like a little sharpened pencil. And then average sizes, these are like half an inch, quarter of an inch, 3/4, something like that. All these are available online. Not too many art stores, including Artisan, but they are online. Talking about materials, I am not only lazy, but a bargain hunter. If you go on eBay and look up pastels, pastel paper, color shapers, anything you're looking for, you will often find at a very reasonable price, very reasonable, something that somebody I think got as a Christmas gift and doesn't want anymore. And it's so cheap that something you would pay $50 for a selection of pastels, you'll find for $17. Try it. Take a look. It's worth it. Other tools.
You realize they'll be bidding against you now.
You'll forget. Piece of credit card. Another thing that you can push pigment around with. Styrofoam packing. Cut them to the size you like. Packing peanuts. Unfortunately, these are being phased out. You don't see them as much as you used to. These are as close to your finger as you'll ever get. There's something about just how dense they are that just works. But now if your paper's too heavily sanded, these of course will fall apart. Little bits of foam core. Cut to size. Use it like a brush. And we'll do this. We'll play around. Very important for black paper, black erasers. Because you try get rid of something with a white eraser, you know, good stuff, you leave those tiny little crumbs behind. And it's painfully lengthy to try and get rid of every little one. Black erasers, readily available, Staples, anywhere, just get a black eraser to go with your, any dark paper. And the kneaded eraser does pretty well because you can make it into this little tiny point where you want to lift something off. That's it, let's draw. That's great. Pink peony, very pink, all by itself. Peonies and any other floral that you do, take a minute to think about what they really are shaped like. Peonies are like a ball on top of a plate. Ball of ice cream, peach, something like that on a paper plate. You've got this central ball of petals and then this little lower thing. Daisies, sunflowers, they're like a flat plate. Tulips, roses, they're like cups. Vasili's favorites are like funnels, calla lilies. But remember what the shape is so you don't get so involved with the color and the edges and everything else that you forget.
Hold it up to that. There you go.
Okay? All right. If something occurs to you once I start painting, just shout it out. I have pre-selected, and I always do this, the colors I need for the subject. When I'm doing blue eggs, I don't need a lot of pinks and reds. So I kind of set them aside. When I'm doing white roses, same thing. I don't need cool colors. So this, which you probably can't see, and tip it a little, is green for the leaves. Everything else is purple and red, because that's what's here.
Betty, you have a very cool apron on, by the way. Yeah, the way it fastens in the back. Is that special?
Yes. Martha Stewart. But I like it because I wipe my hands all the time, and this has really got room. The other thing, and you could come up at the end and see this again. Look at all these whites. I mean, there's white and there's white. But there's 3, 4, 5, 10, 13, 18 whites. For any light colored flower, white is just not going to do it. And every one of these is a warm white, a pinky white. I already took out anything that had not only a cool undertone, but a peachy undertone, because this is really pink.
How about your choices of hardness and softness? What have you got there?
Rembrandts and Holbeins, with a small selection of super softies. But more medium to medium hards. Again, including some that I find perfectly fine. I think these are galleries, which are way down the food chain, but seem to do the job and come in a selection of colors that work. And usually, the last layer for me tends to be higher quality, softer, more heavily pigmented pieces. So if 3 layers down, there's something that's not quite as light fast, it's never going to see any light. It's going to be covered up. Now, I am not a detailed drawer at this level. So I'm not even going to lay out this shape, but I'm going to say deep hot pinks down here, Schiaparelli pinks, and then softer ones. So I'm going to,
Which paper are you using now?
this is Touch, tape down. And let's see. So I've got, that's a little orangey, but there is a little bit in the middle. A true lipstick red, and a kind of middle pink. Let's see how that works.
So do you go light to dark, or you just go in?
The dark's already there. There's only one direction I can go. But generally, I would start in the subject with the middle. So this is kind of this area. And it's really not pinky enough. Let's see what else I've got. Yep, that's got a little orange. Even when you look at them, you don't always know. I don't always know anyway. There you go. Before I do anything else, I feel like I've kind of got that shape. Here's this flat part of the big, fat petals. And I'm beginning to say, oh yeah, there's this round shape in the middle that stands up from there.
No, that dust that falls is like a reflection on the table.
You're ahead of me. We're going to talk about reflections. I think even if I put this right here, nothing falls off. This is a Rembrandt, those were softer.
It's interesting that you do like random strokes.
It's
Beautiful abstract.
any natural subject. It's not really random because you have to think about physics if you want to think about physics. But again, this looks like a good pink. On here, it's not the right value, but it's peachy. It goes set aside. It's a little lighter. I need some more nice hot pink right in the center here. Yeah. This is live theater. It's a little orgy. Okay, I'm going to say something like, it's probably the light in here. There you go. That's better.
Are you using the side of the?
Kind of at an angle, so neither the very square end nor the whole thing. And they wear down in that direction anyway. Okay, I would say that's the basic shape of this peony. What happens now is the magic and because, as I said before, this paper is gritty, but I never bleed. I still have fingerprints.
That's great. Well, it's like sitting on the other car where it's gritty, but a nice, even, fine.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you ever use water or alcohol on any of your underpaintings?
For landscapes, I do. Not for these. I don't think any of these papers would be particularly receptive. And again, if you're going to kill the background, why did you start with black? I want the black. I would love with the black. Whereas if you're talking about a neutral paper, a cream colored paper, a white paper, and you're going to do a landscape, you might want to, yeah, tone it. But I'm saving the black. One of the beauties of pastel is it's an opaque medium, which is one of the reasons you can use, save, and make use of a dark background or a richly colored background, because every stroke you lay down covers. You're not in watercolor territory where you might have to put 3 washes on it. Now I want to work in this center area that has some depth, and these big petals need to have better bottoms, assuming I find the right color. Leave that top alone for right now. Now, already, ready to look for some of these softer, near whites. And this is a good moment to show you a little bit of, oh, here's one other cosmetic thing. These are the wedges that, again, you get in the cosmetic store. They're foam, and they're kind of a nice shape. These shapes I can change. Look how pretty that is. In a way that the pastel itself doesn't really want to do. Push it around. This is the little bit of foam tour. That's why I really need a big apron. I'm not going to finish this painting today, but I want to be sure I show you a lot of things. So, black eraser, this little twiggy thing, I can bring that back to black perfectly. I think often with pastels, and in fact with painting in general, we think we just have to keep adding and adding and adding and adding, and then we'll get what we want. And there's plenty of places and time where what you want to do is take something away. This is presumably a color blender. It's pointy. It's hard rubber. It's not much different than an eraser. And I think you'll be able to see this. It will also act to make to take away little lines and bring them back to black. Can you see that? So if I take a wider one, like a really wide one, this will move a lot of color. But this little thing, and flower petals can be intricate, will let you come in, and instead of drawing a dark line to make the outline of the petal, you've got black paper. Just take it away. As long as it's clean every time, and this is all you need to do. I still don't have any depth in here, so I need to work on that a little bit more.
It's almost like a red.
It is a red. It's a dark burgundy almost. There's still, in the end, going to be plenty of contrast to this mysterious black paper. The other thing right here, this is a light edge of the petal that's folding over. So when I put that dark in, and as I'm blending, it's not random, I'm only going one direction, I'm going away from the edge. someplace where it's a shadow between two shapes, then it's soft on both sides. The other thing is, or another thing, with painting like this, is you have to have enough pastel to push around. This is not one of those just skimming the surface, because there's not enough there. This is going to be this edge of the petal, and it's kind of scallopy. I think it's going to look more natural for me to kind of randomly twist the pastel and turn it than if I tried to draw each little scallop. Because when you do that, you repeat yourself and they're all the same size. So here, I've got the beginnings of a nice petal with a sharp edge against the black and the light folding into the fat part of the petal. And the scallops of that petal probably softer and rounder than this. This is a painting. This is an is. This is a photo of a peony. Neither one is a peony. So what I want to make here is a painting, not a peony. So what it's about is being a painting. Do you think that these petals are beginning to come towards you a little bit? They're lighter, mostly dark recedes, mostly light comes forward. A little more on this edge up here. This kind of raggedy edge, I'm not going to duplicate exactly, but it makes beautiful negative shapes. So you want to have some feel of what that's like. If you buy silk or other artificial flowers, they'll work to fill in a big bouquet if you don't have everything you need. But one of the things that's wrong with them is they're perfect. Every scalloped petal is exactly like every other scalloped petal. Mother Nature doesn't do it that way. Or bugs have got it, but there's an infinite variety in all these pointy little bits of every petal. And you don't have to duplicate them, but you want to recognize them somehow. Say, yes, that's what it's like. They're not made in a factory in China. Well, that little guy actually is kind of peachy, so let me give him a break. Not as easy as it looks sometimes to remember exactly where you are. Chrysanthemums, there's a nightmare. You know, which petal am I looking at? What am I doing here? Maybe I should go have lunch.
Don't drink lunch, right?
Again, I still haven't, I've got this light part, like here. Got this started right in the middle. It's just a smush and there's nothing happening. So I need to look at it and think about it and do something about it. I'm not above matching my pastel to the color of the photograph. A, it's my photograph, I can do whatever I want. B, I have usually pumped these up. I've taken, in Photoshop, taken the color saturation. First I push it as far as the little bar will go, and I don't want to paint that, but I want to back off from that, where this says more about pink peonies than the documentary photograph that I took on the table in my dining room. If you looked at this peony live, you would see these colors. But by the time it's gone through your camera and Photoshop, it's relatively faded. So you can pump it up to nature, or you can pump it up to a little more than that.
Do you always paint from a photograph, or do you sometimes?
Not always, no. But flowers fade, and they fade fast. I'm looking for a red that's dark but not too dark. Go. So I paint the negative shapes behind this white edge, which makes the white edge stand out. To a certain extent, I try and make the strokes move the same direction as the petals are moving. So if they're curved, if they're flying out this way, whatever they're doing. This is one of those near whites. Do it again. Never learn. So you can see that there's a good deal of pastel on here, but there's still enough to put something, another color directly on top of what's already there. So I haven't filled the grain by any means, but I'm not skimming over the surface. It's not really a light touch. And for the moment, I think I'm going to leave the flower alone, the blossom, so that I can talk about the leaves and the edges. So there's a lot of dust here. If these were the eggs, I could use that dust to begin to establish reflections. Peony doesn't have any reflections. It's got leaves. So I have to get rid of that. And this is, obviously the most straightforward way to do it. You can brush it off. Then there's more stuff on the floor. As I think you can see on the camera, this is not real clean yet. But there's so little left that I can go ahead and put the greenery in. And any final cleaning up that I need to do, I'll do after that. So, can we see the leaves down here? They're all kind of barely defined. They're dirty green, earthy green. And if they were too bright, they'd be fighting with my pinks. So, again, and they're not the center of interest, but I think flowers need leaves in general, some kind of greenery to suggest what's really happening. This is a almost army green, really lots of brown in it. Ooh, perfect. It's not a leaf, it's a suggestion of greenery. These, I think, are Ludwigs, and they're not only this subtle green, but there's little speckles of orange in there. They do some navy blues, dark blues and dark purples with speckles of red. I think they may be leftovers, but they really work. Okay, that's plenty. And I want to blend them. So I want to blend them up here. Maybe a little more, something a very dark green. Yep. Maybe. Again, I'm not going to draw these leaf shapes. And I don't want to, if I drew them, they'd look like they were cut out of paper. So, kneaded eraser, making it into a flat shape, pretty thin. I'm going to make little pinches with little fingers. Not very carefully. And they're going to be different sizes, not very uniform. It's a way of introducing a randomness. So these are not peony leaves. They're some kind of greenery. If I lay this against the edge, wipe it away, this is irregular. It's leafy. It's more leafy than I could draw. So there's, and then I can just do that as often as I want. Is the camera getting this little thing?
No, little.
Let's see if I can do it over.
It's the projector that's probably not.
Yeah. But you can see me doing this. Little pinches. Press it down, wipe it away. Then what you like you keep, what you don't like, you can change.
Could you show us the pinches up in front of the camera
Okay,
so we can see what you're actually doing with the piece of,
yeah,
I know you're working it hard, but
okay. So here's the big lump of the kneaded
a
eraser.
little lower, yeah.
Okay. Just doing kind of like pie crust. I have a lot of kitchen analogies. See that?
Lower, just a little lower, there.
It's like a
that's
little
it.
crayon.
Yeah,
Okay.
a little frog foot, something like that. Then, my index finger's here. This is the side that's going to be against the paper. And what's happened is each of those little fingers ends up with a different amount of pressure, and it's a different size, and you just create these organic shapes. One of the things I think is that color is so dark you can't see it. If I go up here, let's pretend that's a leaf, or the leaf shape we're talking about. brighter. You guys can see that? Here's my little frog foot. And I like that, so I can make it a little more definite. And just keep doing it until you've got this edge. The other thing that is going to help me make that edge clearer, again, this is a place to use these color shapers to take things away. The other thing about black paper, it's not as black as you think it is. It never is. So, you can take a true black pastel, can you see how much blacker it is? Now, so if I have this whole area down here and it's darker and I want to let it kind of fade in, look, truly look how much darker your black pastel is. So anywhere where you need absolute killer black, come back, and all these papers are the same. They're never as black as this is. But I hope now you can kind of see this edge. Let's talk about reflections. The reflections on the eggs, they're not a lot different than the leaves. And what I would do here is I'd keep playing with that edge. I'd make it darker against the petals. There would be more to do with this, but always keeping some kind of organic leafy shape, not a peony leaf. Okay, let's pretend we have an egg. None of which are, even the white ones aren't white. Isn't somebody going to say, why are you painting eggs? I have been trying to paint eggs, for at least 5 years. And they look like rocks. They look like all sorts of strange things, but they weren't really working. And then a friend of a friend has some of those chickens that lay blue eggs. And she said, take these, try these. Well, I had to master it because I loved them so much there was no way to get away from it. So finally.
Are they actually blue?
Yeah. You're a boy. Okay, there's a basic egg. I have a couple of polished tiles from Home Depot. If I say they're glass, Jerry's going to say, oh, they're not really glass. Whatever the hell they are. They're shiny as a mirror. And I set my still lifes where I want a reflection on top of that. So I get the real deal. Okay, egg. Hard rubber black eraser. Take this edge, pull it straight down. Not enough, but you're getting there. All reflections, again, never be absolute. Mostly, reflections are a little darker and a little duller than the object being reflected. So if this egg is warm white, the reflection is not going to be like that. But and reflections follow the light. So if the light is raking, the reflection's going to be a little off. But we're talking about nice simple reflection. So I'm actually pulling the color of the object to create the reflection. Then, that looks like the egg is sitting on some rock. Generally, of course, you know, the reflection's going to be the same shape as the object. So you come back, shape the reflection. If there's a bright highlight on the object, there will be a highlight in the reflection, but none of it is as bright. So I did that with an eraser. This will move pigment, but not as much. So depending what you need to do, this can be a handy tool. If this is my fingers are tired, that's packing peanut, that's the finger. Virtually the same. If you get these in your Christmas packages, hang on to them. You know, they're packing with other things. Styrofoam. Because it's textury, it's not as smooth a pull as this, which has a nice clean edge, pulls it down nice and even. You do this, I can see at least more texture. Credit card. Not enough pigment there. Much more subtle. It's there, it's smooth, but it doesn't push as much. White eraser. See what happens to the black paper. This, I can take a brush. It's still there. That's what, really, use a black eraser.
Does the black eraser get the white off if you go over it?
Let's see.
How close to the black paper can you get with the eraser?
Yes. So the black eraser. Well, there's still a little smear here of left over. What I would really be doing there is probably coming back with the black pastel, but just, you know, buy yourself a black eraser.
Your color's still like with a peony and a falling egg.
Yeah, this is a surrealistic piece, and this is all on purpose.
It's really dreaming of an egg.
I like it.
The rising of the egg.
Well, I could round it up and turn it into a moonlit peony. Yeah, think about
Oh, and peony.
Existential.
If anybody want to know anything more about this, and what I'd really like to move then is to talk a little bit about each of the examples. Yes?
Would you add other colors in the leafy part?
Yeah. There's some orange in here right on the edges, and again, it just needs to be darker up under the petals. And it's probably too symmetrical, so I would make it more, maybe this direction, a little more, and this toned down. So So I just play with that shape till it looked right to me.
The little cosmetic wedge, are they done when they've got the color, the pigments in them, or are they washable?
They're washable. Yeah, I didn't, there you go. They hold a lot of pigment. But I do this all the time so that they're reasonably clean when I grab it and do it again in the middle of a painting. I also, this is, napkin, but I always have something to wipe the pastel on. Not so much that I know what color it is, but it's not dirty from the last thing I did with it. And I find that as easy as anything. Yeah.
Do you introduce grays or complementary colors or anything for some of the little shadows in the flower?
Not much. Maybe a little, but I really want this to just say, pink! You know. So if you think of something, still just shout it out, but it's something to see. Look at these leafy bits.
Can you go behind your spotlight?
There you go. These started out as peonies. They're not very peony-esque. Take that off. But I think it's a painting about pink blooms and those leaves, or whatever they are. Again, you can see how abstracted they are, but they give the flowers something to stand on. And that's all they need to do. Reflections. Done just the way I showed you. Pulling the color out of the cherries, shaping it a little round, and it's duller, but it's the same color. And it kind of gives a subject like this something to sit on. I'm ready to believe flowers that are kind of waving in the breeze, but cherries don't float. Which is why also this one horizon line, it again just grounds it a little bit. So there's some indication that there's a place where these cherries are.
Did you just put that line across and then pull it down? Or is it a solid color from the horizon?
This line,
Yes.
it's just a line.
Okay, you didn't manipulate it at all?
Nope,
Okay.
tri-square, drafting, that's it. It's purple.
You
Yeah.
said you often spray in between, so what's left to pull down for your shadows? I mean, your
Because
reflections.
it's workable fix, it'll pull.
Which one do you use?
Workable,
Which brand?
there's a casein brand from France that I like, can't think of the name of it. And the other is whatever comes in the white can that you can get everywhere. Yeah. Now this is on touch, and you can see how, I think how clean those edges are. And again, the reflections just pull down. Getting a little jazzier with the horizon line. There's purple, turquoise, and orange in there. But the eggshells are, and the eggs, it's another Photoshop thing. Yes, the blue eggs are blue. Probably not quite that blue. But I think you read them as eggs. You don't say blueberries, they're too blue. And the orange eggs are, of course, your standard grocery store brown eggs. So every color is kind of punched up, but to me, you still believe it. You believe they're ink, you don't think they're anything else.
Penny, what kind of plastic are you using for that?
Acetate? You buy it in pads? I really got into this egg thing.
Where do you get the acetate? The acetate, where do you purchase it?
Online. So you just, look it up. If there's some questions that about specifics like that, I send them to Marilyn, I can send them to Nick, say, the things we talked about, here's the exact brand and where I got it. So that'll help. All blues.
Do you do a final spray of fix-a-tip?
Still workable though. I never used the final spray stuff. More, especially abstracty leaves, they're just some kind of greenery, and I think it passes.
Maybe can you get the little plums or
What?
plums?
Oh, plums. A number of people have told me they really love this. It's not my favorite. This is one. It's on touch paper again, but it's on gray. This is the color of the paper. And it just didn't seem as dramatic as me. Maybe I'm just in love with the black now. But it's clearly a viable choice, a good choice. But with something this color, too, again, if you were doing white flowers, the gray would probably be fine.
So you don't cover the color. You leave the gray there or the black
Yeah,
plain.
yeah. It's, if you think about the way you would do underpainting, you'd say, oh, I want some kind of warm thing, so you put sienna down. That's what I'm thinking of with the colored paper, essentially. It's my base color. Why change it? No leaves at all. Not much contrast. It's like an exploding star, I'm thinking. Just white, lots of whites. And not a close, tight rendering petal by petal. The rest of this one you can really see that I've exaggerated the color and really done a lot of fooling around with those edges. All this stuff. And in here, these are not gray pastels. That honestly is the cool of the black coming through. I just didn't put as much pigment on it. Similar, the green is just streaks. It's not leaves. I would flatter myself to say I can draw leaves. I just don't do it. And this is black acrylic gesso on watercolor that we started with. And I really like the feel of this smushy stuff.
It's very artsy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that might be a good thing. But the black gesso is truly not black.
Is that one of your rubber things, or is that a brush that you apply the gesso with?
I think it's a brayer. You know, like printmakers, a little roller, hard rubber roller. I could fall in love with this right here. You know, forget the damn eggs.
Is that on hot press watercolor paper?
No, it's quite rough. It's 400 pound. And that's all I got for you. So, come and look at anything you want.
One question, when you do those complicated flowers, you said I didn't try to do every petal, so you just kind of get going with the concept and let that carry you?
Yes, exactly.